Hello and welcome to Atomic Facepalm. I'm Bree, and today on Played in Full we're reviewing Fee, or Fae, or whatever this game is called. Hi guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, we do in-depth game reviews and hardware reviews, so consider subscribing. So today we're going to review the prettiest game that you've never heard of. So I played this game on the Switch, but it is also available on the PC through Origin. It is an EA published game, so no Steam and no goodoldgames.com or GOG or whatever you prefer to call it. You can get it on the Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox One. And this is a pretty indie game, and I don't feel like I've heard anybody talk about it. So to see it being pushed through Origin, which I don't feel like, what are there, like 4 people that use Origin, keeping it out of Steam and GOG.com just feels like that's going to limit this game, which literally I've seen people in games journalism be like, I've never even heard of this game. That sucks, because this game is really, really cool, really beautiful, and like seriously, just hopefully I'm playing some screen stuff on there right now so you can see how pretty this game is. It's unlike anything else I've seen. It's really colorful and pretty, and yes. So yes, published by EA, developed by Zoink Games, $20, and I played it on the Switch, and I don't know if I'd recommend it as a Switch game. Like, it wasn't a game that I wanted to play on a tiny little screen, which I think is the benefit of having the Switch. So I'd almost grab it on my PS4 or Xbox if I was recommending where to buy it. I did play it when I first got it on this little tiny screen, and because it's such a monochromatic kind of game where you're in one area and it's all purple, or you're in one area and it's all kind of orange, which is cool and really pretty on a big screen, it's a little hard to see where you're going or what you're doing when you are playing on a tiny little screen like that. So I did that for about an hour and then never went back and just played it on my big screen. All right, so let's talk about this game. So it's absolutely stunning, beautiful game. Set in a fantastical forest. It's kind of like crystally, obviously multi-hued colors of purples and oranges and greens and blues, these really deep jewel tones that are everywhere. And, you know, as you go to the different biomes of the forest, it'll change colors completely, and suddenly you're in this blue place and an orange place, and it just looks beautiful. It's like somebody took a painting and turned it into kind of an adventure platformer game. This game definitely gets some inspiration from games like Journey, where there's no text or dialogue or spoken word to kind of lead you. You've got to kind of figure things out, and that's kind of cool, but I think that it could throw people off within the first hour or two, because you really don't, like, I went into this game knowing that it was going to be about, you know, a fox in a forest, and you're going to use your different songs that you learn from different creatures to gain new skills and progress through the forest. So I kind of knew that you had to sing and interact with things to get things going, but still the first hour and a half was a little bit painful for me. And not in a bad way. I think that you just kind of approach it like a different kind of game. You got to kind of relax and just explore and take in the forest. It's more about that than it is about, you know, going from point A to point B to point C. One of the things that you'll see on the loading screens a lot is it'll tell you that you can call down a bird and it'll guide you along, and it also will give you waypoints on the map. But that doesn't really happen until you load back in. So the first time going into it, I had no idea what was going on, and I kind of got distracted by something pretty and got off the more linear trail that was going to take me to the kind of opening area. So I think it's one of those games that you got to have just a little bit more patience, or go into it with a different idea of what to expect, and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, I guess. And that might work better in this case, because it is kind of it's a relaxing game. And speaking of relaxing, there is no combat in this game. So the first thing you might be doing is going through your buttons, like, what does this one do? I can sing, but I can't hit things. And I think that's really cool too, is because you got to figure out the puzzles without, you know, killing a guy. A lot of games now, they offer you like, oh, you can stealth or you can kill, and you can choose. This, you can't kill. You just have to figure out the puzzles, which are not very hard. This is not a super challenging game, puzzle-wise or platforming-wise. It can be a little frustrating in parts, but nothing that was like I had to put down the controller and walk away. It's a pretty easy, mellow game. So with no text, no narration, no dialogue, any of that, It still does have a story, though I can't say that that's the central focus or that you come away from it knowing exactly what happened. I think it's a little bit more looser, open to interpretation. A lot of this game reminded me of Hob, which I had just played, 6 months ago, and in a good way, because this is the kind of games that I really like. So you don't necessarily know exactly what's happened on this planet or this, in this world, but definitely there's these evil kind of giant robot cyclopses. Cyclopses. I'm gonna go with cyclopses. Um, Characters that are around, and they are kind of freezing and controlling the other forest creatures, the birds and the deer, and if they see you, they freeze you. So there's definitely, like I said before, a lot of stealth instead of combat. So you're gonna be, hiding in little bushes. And since you're kind of a porcupine fox, I'm gonna call you a porcupine fox. Your little spikes on your back, you kind of lets you blend in with the bushes. And I think I was surprised, even knowing as much as I did about this game going in, how much stealth there is. And it's not hard stealth. I really usually don't like stealth games because they make me sweaty, and I'm like, they're gonna find me, and I get all freaked out. But this was pretty mellow, and it also is very forgiving with its save points. So if you get caught or you die, it feels like you come back in most of the time towards the end, or your boss puzzle levels. Those are going to be a little less forgiving if you die, but most of the time you die and you come back in within 30 seconds of where you were. Automatic saving, no checkpoint. So the main feature of the game is that you learn songs and you have your own song right away. And this is, I think, why I think it's a fox, is because each of the different forest creatures comes up on a little action wheel, and your character looks, or your sound, like your original song that you come with, is a little kind of fox icon. So I'm a crystal fox. That's what I was. With those songs that you unlock, it becomes a little bit like a Metroidvania, where you suddenly realize that you can go back and do things. Now I've learned this ability to do this and open this kind of gateway thing. I can go back and unlock other things, but not necessarily the same way as Metroidvania, where it's like, this is going to unlock a different section of the map that I saw before, and I need to remember where that is. More like it's secrets and extras and whatever. There are a lot of collectibles in this game, so you can collect different hieroglyph paintings. You can collect different memories from the Cyclopses. Collecting the crystals lets you upgrade certain skills, and it's not like you allot the points to certain abilities. It's kind of like, once you get 10 crystals, then it unlocks this skill. Once you get 6, it unlocks this skill, and so on. So it's not necessary, but they're very helpful. Like the flying, I guess the flying would be very necessary, but it kind of holds your hand to get you that one. But running fast, I mean, you need it, but you don't need it either. At the heart of this game, it's definitely a lot of exploration and a lot of platforming. A lot more platforming, actually, than I thought. And I think that would be one of the cons, is that sometimes your character, because he's floating and jumping, he can be a little boaty to control. He's a little hard to control. He's not like it's not a precise platformer. It's not like, I'm going to land exactly here. Sometimes you overshoot it and the controls are not super tight. But that also works in a way, because that's, your character's floating around, gliding around, so it kind of fits him that he's controlled that way. But it definitely led to some frustration. There's some levels where you're platforming up a giant beast or something, and you need to latch on to trees, and kind of the game was asking me to be precise, but the controls didn't allow me to be precise. And that was one of the more frustrating levels, where I think I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to put this down for now and I'll come back later. I see, one of the interesting things is actually discovering this map more than anything. Is it is really clever level design. So it feels kind of open worldy. It feels like you can go wherever, but at the same time, it almost hold your hands in a very linear way through this map. And it's not like you are walking along a line. When I say linear, it's kind of a spiderweb map, and you are guided without even really knowing it, guided from one part to the next, and almost like a star pattern. And once I was finished, I was like, oh, I came out there, and that leads to this, and that. It was kind of clever. It's definitely really cool map and level design. At the same time, because of the way that it is kind of linear, I was hesitant to go off the beaten path and start exploring and finding more crystals, because I was afraid, what if I can't get back on the linear path very easily, and then I'm just like completely lost and stuck in some area. So I actually saved, I didn't go nuts with exploring for crystals. I saved that kind of to the end. And this is a game where you can come, like, as soon as you're done, the credits start to roll, but the credits are rolling on a playable screen. So it's very clear that they would like you to continue playing this game and unlock all the different secrets and find all the different story modes. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. That being said, there are a lot of tools to help you if you are stuck. I said before that there was the bird that you can call down. If you sing long enough, there's a bird and he'll kind of be like, hey, 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 go over here and do this thing. There's also a dot on the map that you know that you're trying to get to. That's not always that helpful because just because you know where you need to go doesn't mean you know how to get your fox there. And I think one of the things is you can climb trees. It's one of the first skills that you learn is to climb these kind of pine trees. And just before, I'd say using the bird or looking at the map is just climb a tree and look around. Not only is it going to let you take in this game and see it, it's kind of the way the game is meant to be played. It feels like they got a lot of feedback about, oh, I'm lost, and they put in the bird and they put in the map dots. And I think it's best when you do just kind of relax and take in the world. Normally, I think I would criticize a game for something like that, but I don't know. This game is one of those things that's more of experience. You need to kind of just step back, take a look, and gain perspective. Where a lot of other games, I sometimes hold them to a higher standard and I want them to hold my hand. I think that what makes this game strong is when it's not holding my hand and it's allowing me to just kind of be an animal in the forest, which sounds really stupid, but it's true. So it has pretty graphics and it's pretty fun to play. The story. This is probably one of the weaker parts because there is no final conclusion. I do like a nice tidy bow on my stories, and I have some interpretations of what happened at the end. And reading other reviews, I actually didn't get in depth with reading someone else's interpretation. I didn't want to kind of cheat, I guess. Reading other reviews, I see that other people are not necessarily very clear on what happened. I definitely have a general sense of what happened. You know, you're on this planet where these cyclopsi, are taking over everything and destroying the natural world, and you're kind of part of helping the forest get back to where it should be and releasing the creatures from their trapped existence or whatever. But where those other creatures came from, where you came from, I think one of the opening scenes is actually you kind of shooting down from a star. Like maybe you're all aliens, or maybe the cyclopses live here, which are called the silent ones, but everyone's silent. I guess they don't sing the songs. Maybe that's the point. I think that was the point. I don't know why I said that. I'm definitely a little torn on the story part of it. I felt like at the moment, at the end of the game, I felt like I had some conclusion, but I wasn't 100% sure about it either. You know what I mean? There's never any text or dialogue or anybody telling you this is what is happening. And so you have to kind of interpret it from, hopefully you understood what the pictures on the walls, the kind of like cave painting hieroglyphics, you hopefully understood that, or maybe hopefully you found enough of the Cyclops' eyeballs to look back into their memories and understand what they did. I mean, there's definitely a base thing that is revealed at the end, which I thought was kind of neat, and that maybe is what made it satisfying, is because you get this kind of tiny little plot twist. But it isn't ever very clear cut that somebody's saying this is what happened, and it's not necessarily a strong enough story that it's open to interpretation, like, Night in the Woods, where, you can interpret what happened in different ways. It's more like put together all these puzzle pieces and create your own story from it kind of deal. Not a game breaker for sure at all. And it's interesting. I definitely appreciate that take on storytelling through games in that way. And I have been enjoying other games doing it, like Hob did that very well. Journey does it well. Those kinds of games, I definitely like it. But sometimes it can, if you miss something, I would feel bad that you wouldn't know what was going on. Overall, this isn't a super long game. It's $20. It's really interesting. It's unique. And I think if I had to sum it up in one word, it was delightful. It really was. It was a breath of fresh air. It was different and interesting. And I'm very, very glad that I played this game. And I hope that it kind of does well. I just, with the whole thing where it's on PC but only through Origin or whatever EA calls their stupid thing, is really disappointing to me, because I feel like, well, yes, the Switch is doing a really good job for indie games and games that maybe people haven't heard of. I feel like a lot of people go through, Steam or GOG, and, somebody recommended this, or they see it on a curated list, or it's on a sale, a Steam sale for $5, and they decide to try it. And then word of mouth spreads. Like, those, I feel like, are the bread and butter of indie games. And then eventually they get, enough and they come to the Switch, and that's great too. But seeing this game be limited right out of the gate, and I understand what EA's doing with Origin, like they're trying to, The Sims 4 through Origin, fine, whatever. But a game like this, they need to take themselves out of the equation if they want it to do well at all. And I feel like them putting in on a game like this and then not giving it the opportunity to succeed is frustrating, because then they see, oh, it didn't make the numbers that we thought it was going to make. And I don't know, the whole thing is just like somebody in a marketing department needs to take a step back and understand why games like this, or how games like this can do well. So that's a kind of a mini rant aside, but I just buy this game. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really cool. I definitely would suggest it on your PS4 or Xbox or Switch. So anyways, EA rant aside, this is why we can't have pretty things. Play this game. I highly recommend it. Get it on your favorite console of choice, and spread the word. If you enjoyed it, tell somebody else. That's really what you can do for indie games. If you enjoyed them and no one else that you know has heard of them, tell somebody else. Make them. Buy it for them. Do something. I really appreciate games like this. I think that that's something different. Somebody tried something new, and it worked. I think it was a very delightful. I think I said that word before, but this game I finished it and I was like, oh, that was really good. I am so glad that I played that game and I experienced that game. And not a single other person in my household has played this game. So I don't know how well, hopefully I can convince somebody else to go out there and buy it. And if you do, leave a comment. I'd love it, and tell a friend. So thanks for tuning in. Like I said, subscribe if you like the review. Find me on Twitter and let me know what you think. Leave a comment below, all that jazz. And thanks, guys. Good luck and have fun.